Hello. So, Business Central 20 was announced on April 1st, and it's that time of the year where we talk about what's new in the product. So, in the first video, we'll try to set up the Docker container for Business Central 20. If you know it, you might want to visit the other videos in this series, but you haven't set up the Docker container, this is the right video for you. So, let's quickly talk about the prerequisites what you need. You need the Docker installed on your system. You can read about the guidelines on multiple MVP blogs and also on the Docker website. Once the Docker is in place, to set up Business Central containers, you need a module called BC Container Helper, and which you can install. And if you have it, you need to make sure that it's available with the latest version that you have. So you can check the module version for BC Container Helper by going into PowerShell ISE as administrator, and then name the fully qualified name as BC Container Helper. Once you run this command, you'll get the latest, the version that you have. So if you have any version which is less than this, you should surely update your BC Container Helper. And there's an article that I've written in the past which kind of does it automatically every day, so you don't have to kind of keep an eye on it and make sure that it's get updated. I'll put the link of this article in the video, but here it is, which talks about how you can define a task in Windows Task Scheduler to kind of update your BC Container Helper daily at a defined time. Like I've set it up for 11 a.m. every day, which is just set of two commands, which is uninstall the existing BC Container Helper and then install the latest one, which is available from Microsoft on it. So I'll put the link in the comment section. But once you have both of these, we'll go back into the PowerShell, not the PowerShell IC, but on PowerShell. So let's open PowerShell and let's run it as administrator. Once you run the PowerShell as administrator, you end up on a screen like this. And there in the BC Container Helper module, there's a command which can help you in creating a BC Container Helper using new, if I'm not wrong, BC Container Wizard. So Freddy have worked on it, and it's a wizard which gives you limited options, so that sets of options that you can set on that container, and you don't have to remember or take a script from someone and use it, because there are changes that happens in the product, and the script kind of keeps it in sync, and you don't have to worry about it and save the script. So the first one is accepting the license. You do accept the license. Then where you want your container, on your local machine or on a Windows Azure server. I'll do it on local Docker container. Then what type of authentication you want? You want a username password? You want a predefined username and a predefined password? Or you want an admin user with a random password? Or you would like to use Windows authentication, which I suggest not to use with Dockers. You should stick to username password. So you can choose either of these three options. I prefer to keep my password, so I'll use A. What would be your container name? So I'll call it as BC 20. I'll be creating it for North America, so US, and I'll be creating a sandbox environment Docker container. So I'll name it as BC US sandbox. There are commands, or sorry, there are help available here which guides you how you name certain things. Like container names are case sensitive and they should always start with a letter. So I prefer to keep all caps off so that it makes it easier for me. Once you have given the container name, then you choose the version that you need. The options are, you can use the latest what's available on Sandbox, which is the cloud environment. You can use the latest Business Central on-prem environment. You can use the insider build CMD options, but this is only in case of the next major and minor. which you would have used in the past before the version was released. Or if you have a specific build that you're looking for, let's say 19.3 or 17.8, then you need to provide the version number if you choose E and F. And then there are still NAV versions for which you can create Docker containers. So I'll choose the latest sandbox, which will give me Business Central 20. Now it's looking for what's the latest available on SaaS. And once it finds it, it'll move to the next option as it is available based on that. I prefer Sandbox even if I'm doing on-prem development. And if you haven't read about it, there are some changes in terms of Universal Code Initiative from Microsoft. Uh, and based on those initiatives, you should always try to write a code which is SaaS compatible, even if it's being used on-prem. If you want me to kind of detail about what's the Universal Code Initiative is, put down that in comments, and I'll record a separate video about it. Then how you do this and how you identify that it's your extension is SaaS compatible or not. Once the latest version is chosen, it tells you here that this is the version that it is looking for. And then you need to choose the country or the localization that you're using. And let me bring it here. Okay. I'll be using US or North America. You can choose other countries if needed. Then do you need the test toolkit if you have to run automated test on your extensions that you're building? For this video, I'm choosing D, which is no test toolkit, but it's based on your choices. You can choose the right options. Don't worry, even if you choose D option here, you can later on add test toolkit into your container. Do you need a premium plan for the users that will be created there? If yes, then you choose yes, but that will require you to assign a license on while creating your Docker containers. So keep that in mind that you'll require a license over there. Do you want to create some test users like external account, premium, essential, internal admin, team members, and delegated admin? Again, you can add these later if you want. So I'll choose no at this point. Are you going to perform any base app development? Some modifying the base app, which is not suggested. So I'll say no. But if you need it, you can choose yes over there. Do you need the VSIX file, which is needed for VS Code? If not, then whatever is installed on your machine will be used. So that's available publicly now for Business Central 20. So I don't need the VSIX file. Was the license that you'll be using for this Docker container is what is the next question. So you can pick your dev license based on wherever it's stored on your machine and then place it here, the path of it, which is this for me. Where you want your database. Do you want your database on your local SQL server to connect to this Docker environment, or you want a Kronos environment inside Docker container? So I'd be preferring an A, which is having a Kronos environment inside my Docker container. Do you need a multi-tenant environment, which can have a single tenant or a multi-tenant? If you need it, you can choose yes, otherwise you can choose no. Will you be using the default DNS, or you have a predefined DNS that you are using? I prefer to use the A, which is the default DNS setting. Will you be using the Docker client as a self-signed certificate, or you have your own certificate? I prefer to use HTTP for my local development, so I'll choose A. For type of isolation, I prefer the standard which is provided by the script. How much memory you need, and the help here talks to you about what different kind of memories you should use. I'll limit it to my 4G, and this is how you kind of limit it here or provide it here. Do you want to save the image? Now, if you don't specify a name here, it kind of doesn't save the image, which gets downloaded when you run the PowerShell for the first time to kind of create the Docker container. So if you are like me, who kind of creates multiple Dockers based on containers based on one single image, then you should save the image. But I have already saved it, so I don't need to kind of save it. But otherwise, you just need to type the name here. And the next time when you create a container for the same version, it will be created a lot quickly rather than taking time to download that image. At the end of it, it ends up with a PowerShell script like this, and you can save this script if you require. So I can say save it on my this D drive with BC 2022 release wave 1 .ps1, or you don't have to give the extension, I guess. As soon as I hit enter, it will load this command into my PowerShell ISE. So let's hit enter, and you see a pop-up raising here. So I can close this and I can open my PowerShell ISE. The command is here. I didn't have to type anything. I didn't have to kind of take a copy from one of my fellow developer to build a container. That's all is part of the wizard which is available. Now it tells me about the container name. It has the user authentication and password, and then there is this important called artifact URL, which gives you the URL of the artifacts related to the release that you're looking for, which in our case, we are looking for a sandbox release for country US, and we are trying to select the latest version that's available. So once you are happy with it and everything looks cool, you just have to run this command. It'll ask you for the username password if you're like me who try to keep their own username and password for the Docker container. If you would have chosen other options in the credential window, it would have behaved in a different way. So once you have your BC container helper updated, your Docker installed, and you run your BC container wizard as we did, you end up with a script like this, which helps you to create your Docker container in a standard way and without causing any issues in there. So let's try to read it while it is running. It's kind of setting it up. What would the container name? What is the credential? Now here it says to get the credentials from user, because I have chosen the option that I want to keep the username password, but my username password, not nothing predefined username and password like that. After fetching the credentials from user, it defines what kind of authentication you have chosen in your wizard. Then based on your version selection window and the country selection window, the next line, line number 4, is tied in, which talks about which version of the BC artifact URL you are looking for. In our case, we are looking for the sandbox for North America or US, and the latest version that's available in SAS as of today. The license file is what you are looking for, that's stored on your system, which is your developer license or your partner license. If you don't choose the license file in the wizard, it will have the demo license installed on your Docker container. Once that happens, then it defines the new BC container helper that you have accepted the license, which is the first step. Then the container name, which is you have given in the step 2 of the wizard. And then what kind of credentials you will be using, which is this. What kind of authentication you will be using, is this. What is the artifact URL, which is based on your inputs on the wizard. Do you want to assign the premium plan for the users that are defined in the Docker container? That's based on assign premium plan. Then where is your license file, which you have defined here. How much memory you have been selecting, that's there. And then do you want to update the host file, which kind of updates your PC host file by mapping an IP address to your Docker container name, so that while you're trying to access it, system can read the host file and understand where it is. So let's give it some time because it's downloading in my temp folder, the latest PC20 image and the artifacts. I thought they should be installed. I'm pretty sure I did save the image. Let me look at it. Here in the images, you can see that I have a PC20 US sandbox image, and it's 20.3, sorry, 20.037253. And I guess that's what it is trying to do, 37253, and then 38454. There has been a change into this number where it has been enhanced or the updated version. But let's talk about it. Let me stop this. You can run this if you need, but I'll just stop it for a while and I'll make it a little faster because I already have an image, which is this image. So if you have an image available in your Docker container and you have this command available on your machine that you have used in the previous time, if you run the same command, even if you have image like I had, it might end up downloading the latest one based on how old is your command which you have. And that's where you might have to change one set of parameter in this PowerShell so that it uses the existing image that you already have. So let's wait for stopping this, and let me try to open the another PowerShell if I can in the meantime. And let me try to load this same command because it's trying to stop it. It may take some time. Okay. Then, okay, let me close this and open the other window where I've already loaded this. Now let's understand this artifact URL because this is based on this, it's trying to fetch the version. So if you just copy this and run it into this blue area, it'll tell you what is the latest version that's available on the sandbox at this moment. It's going and trying to fetch what is the latest version that's available in sandbox based on the latest parameter that you have defined there. But you don't have to kind of limit yourself to always select latest. And I guess that's what I'm trying to explain here. So let's wait for it for a while and then we'll see how we can use our existing image rather than fetching latest from the SaaS environment. Okay. Okay, so the way it works is it showed me that the latest available on Business Central SaaS image or artifact URL as of this moment is 38528. Now, what I have already is 38454. And if I want to reuse this image to kind of create a Docker container, what I can do is I can use the same command and then a different select because there are different options. So I can do a select, and then if you do a control space, you will see the available options. So I'll come to this in a while, but right now you can choose all, which means it will show you all the images that are or artifacts URL that are available for sandbox for the US localization or North America localization, which means any version that's available for creating a Docker container. It it it's not just Business Central 20. It'll bring everything that's available as an option today on SaaS for creating a Docker container. So the list might be used, but if you use all, then it'll give you all the list, and then based on that, we can identify the exact version that you are looking for, and then tweak this command, just this part, to utilize the existing image that we have so that I don't have to kind of fetch it again and spend time into it. So when you do all, and let's see, it took some time, but eventually it showed me, and let me expand this window. It showed me all the versions starting from 15.4 to 16.0. then to 17 and 18, and then 19, and then 20. If you look on the 20 section, there is still four different images or artifacts which are available. Out of these, what I'm using right now, or what I have right now, is 38454. 38454 is this. So what we can do is we can change this to be the closest. And whenever you say closest, you need to give the version that you want to look the closest for, which is version. And then you will choose the version that you're looking for. In my case, it's this. So if I do this and paste it here in this command, it will return me one result, which is matching to the image that I already have. So I don't actually have to go, and the command does not have to go and fetch the latest if I want to reuse this. So what I'll do is I'll copy this part and I'll paste it here. Okay. Now it will not go and look for the latest that's available on SAS. It will actually try to utilize the image that let me get the credential. I might have messed it up. So let me retype it. So what we have done is we have changed the artifact URL based on which it tries to fetch the latest version that's needed. Now, if you look at it, it's now targeting to 37253, 38454, which is already an image stored in my machine, 37523 and 38454 for US localization. So it should not download. It's what it is showing you here that it is trying to download, but it eventually is not. But then it'll look for the images that's available on my system and will try to utilize it to create the new Docker container. So let's wait for a while and then I'll walk you through about what actually happened when this command ran. Okay, so there was I paused the recording because it was taking a lot of time. And I went back and I did check that my older image had some issues and it was broken. So I did some changes and let's talk about those. I changed it back to being the latest and I also added the parameter to save the image because my old image was corrupted for that matter. Okay, so the command is completed. Let's quickly have a look what actually happened when we ran this. So it ran the command, it identified the Docker versions and client, then it downloads the platform, the application artifact, and then it downloads the platform artifacts, and then it extracts them into a temp folder. Then there are some prerequisites which gets downloaded. Then once everything is done, it checks what's the Windows version that you're using, and based on that, it tags it to a generic image based on whatever version you're using. And then once that is done, Microsoft does copy all the platform and the application uh, extensions in the BC artifact cache. The BC container helper does that. Once that is done, it starts building the Docker container, which copies files inside the Docker container. Once all these files kind of gets copied, then it starts creating the service. Once the service is created, the version is installed. Because I requested a database inside SQL Server, it will install the SQL Express also. Once all that is done, it maps my host file. And once that is done, it starts the container. The host name is the container name. The license that I've used is uploaded in the container. It did restart the service. It created my user as a super user. It did check my license seems to be BC19, so it says non-compatible, but that's okay. And then at the end, you will see that there is a container IP address that you can use to access it. Or if you have to access the web client, you can use the URL like this. Or you can use the dev server for connecting to your VS Code using this. The server instance for all BC environment would be BC. Docker container would be BC, and the tenant, because I chose multi-tenant, is default. So now if I have to access the web client, I can access this URL. So let's copy this and let's find a browser tab and let's try to run this here. So once you run this, you will see the login screen, which will require your username and password based on whatever you have given while creating Docker container. Once you key in your username and password, the browser should load your Business Central 20 client. Then it gives you detail about it, and then it also gives you how you can get the log and the debug info from the container in your machine if you have to. So if you have to track or pull the event log, you can use this command. If you have to go inside the command prompt, then you can use the enter BC container and the container name. If you have to remove this, don't use the Docker removes because it leaves some things which are specific to BC. Use the command remove BC container with the container name. It will remove the container from your system. Once it's done, you will see that the Business Central 20 is loaded on your system as a Docker container. And you can also see it from here. What is the version of that? It's version 20 with the platform as 38311 and the application as 38528, which is the latest as of today. So that's, and then you can check on your Docker window that you have a new image, which I just created, it seems, let's say a minute ago. And then you also have a container, and using this window, also, you can restart your Docker containers and you can read about all those details which you saw here inside here also. What client, what URLs you need to give for different access to the client. So hope that makes sense and you're able to set up the Docker container. Stay connected. I'm going to talk about what's new into 2022 release wave 1 into this playlist. Do share these videos for better reach to your colleagues and other fellow community members. And do subscribe to the channel if you haven't. See you very soon with what's new in 2022 release wave 1. Thank you.